Hi, everyone. This is Tom Gowker from Something Came from Baltimore. And if you're listening to this interview and it says The Show, like Kate Edmondson, The Show, Simon Below, The Show, Sean Jones, The Show, that means you are listening to a repeat of an episode that has already aired on thebox.com. Thebox.com is an internet radio station based out of Bmore, and I recommend that you download the station to your phone, and then you will hear Bmore music anytime, 24/7. And if you can set your watch to hear Something Came from Baltimore, The Show, it's every week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on thebox.com. While this is a repeat of the show, you can listen to Something Came from Baltimore anytime. Just subscribe to YouTube, iTunes, Anchor, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Basically, it's everywhere but Spotify because we play music here. Download the podcast and then flip it to 5 people who may like this type of show. Music fans have to look out for each other. We want you to be a part of the Be More music scene. Welcome to another episode of Something Came from Baltimore. I'm your host, Tom Gowker, and tonight I have the one and only Paula Cole on the phone. Paula Cole just released Revolution on September 13th, 2019 on the 675 record, and it's been out for a while, but she's still willing to do press on the record. And it's a great idea because the album has a great political edge to it. It's a cry for humanity, and the narratives are super personal and emotional. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door to which leads to the ultimate reality.
Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality.
So, Tom speaking. Welcome, Paula Cole, to Something Came from Baltimore.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you. Paula, I want to thank you for, just creating some thoughtful music in this world that we're living in right now, and I'm bewildered why other artists are not really creating what I call like woke music at a time when we really need it.
That's beautiful, woke music. Well, I mean, I'm not really looking to my contemporaries. I'm looking to my, progenitors. I guess I'm looking to like musical legacy, the ones that last, and I think the ones that last are the ones that did speak out socially, politically, or about stories other than themselves. I mean, from Paul Robeson to Bob Dylan to Nina Simone and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and Joni Mitchell and John Lennon, Bob Marley and Marvin Gaye. I mean, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On has inspired me a couple of times now in my album making. But these are the artists I look to, and I don't, every once in a while I pay attention to something that's interesting going on now, but I'm still like worshiping the music of the masters, and they took their time to speak out about social justice.
I'm a little older, so I was growing up in a time period where message songs were just a part of everyday life. You got Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Wake Up, or even up to Lauryn Hill's That Thing. Social messages were just a part of our life, and all of a sudden there is nothing going on. I am really concerned because I was doing this research for you. I was reading Pat Metheny's reviews too, where he has, I can't say they're political messages, they're just really woke music, and his concerns and the feedback on comments are really sharp and negative. And I don't even believe that they're listening to the music. I just feel that they're just kind of hitting hard. This album has been out for a while, so it has hit the atmosphere. What is the reaction, or what do you feel that the reaction is about your material?
Well, I'm sorry to hear that about Pat Metheny because he's amazing, and I too love Lauryn Hill. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was just such an amazing album. So yeah, thank you for mentioning those artists. And this Revolution was released in the fall, and the reviews were amazing. Like critically, it was amazing. I'm in a different period of my career now where it's not like it used to be. I'm fortunate that my old songs keep getting played, but I'm really just looking forward and not backward, and I need to express social justice themes in music like a couple of times now in my music with Amen, my third album, and now Revolution. And yeah, some people struggle, but I think overall it's been largely positive from my loving loyal fan base and the woke people that are listening. Like they get me, they get my catalog, they understand the content of my catalog. But if you were to like dangle me out there, if for some reason it was a lot more successful, then I'd probably get skewered, I'm sure, and that's just part of it. And it just seems like the bully at the top of the hill is emboldening all the bullies. So we're in this climate right now of kind of abuse in a way, especially abuse to those who kind of dare speak out. So I'm sure, there has been some of that, and I just keep my head down and I keep moving. And I'm going to say this because I'm alive right now, and I want to make meaningful music in my lifetime. I want to speak my truths. So I'm going to express this no matter what. And whatever will be, I guess. It's been largely really positive.
I'm right there with the fans and right there with the critics. I think this is a great album, and I think it's really cool. You hit me really hard in a couple songs coming here where you emotionally touched me. I want to get to that, but I'm kind of like leading up to it because I have a conversation I want to talk about with the song "Silent." You chose to do a cover of Marvin Gaye for this album, "Mercy, Mercy Me." Out of all the, I guess, woke songs or protest songs from the past, you picked this one. Why did you choose to pull that and re-record that?
Like I said, I love and adore Marvin Gaye. I love his voice. I love his bravery. He released What's Going On, I think it was 1971, at the protestations of his record label. And he needed to sing about more than just love. He wanted to sing about the planet, too. And he put together Mercy, Mercy Me, a.k.a. The Ecology. And it's a brilliant song that's ahead of its time for the planet. He's talking about fish and mercury in the waters. He's talking about pollution in the skies, our need to come together, being aware of human impact. And I strongly feel this song needed to come back out. There haven't been too many covers of it. It's actually really difficult musically. The way he sings is so sophisticated. When I was kind of shedding Marvin's vocal delivery, he sings in such like a deft. It reminds me of like a Brazilian music. His vocal phrasing is so deft and syncopated. It's really much more complicated than you'd think, and it's just such a brilliant song that hasn't been covered enough. So let's pull out Marvin, The Ecology, Mercy, Mercy Me now. Now, we need this message again now. What we're doing, our human impact is so huge. We are so overpopulated on the planet, so anything we do has enormous impact, much to the detriment of some of these species just hanging on by a thread. Right now, in my lifetime, like since 1970, 3 billion birds are gone. That's 1/4 of the Earth's bird population is gone since 1970. Anything migratory, land, space, pesticide, we're wiping out species. It's a tragedy. I mean, our sons and daughters, our grandchildren are not going to know right whales and red wolves, let alone like species of plants, things that could be medicine for us. We are so out of touch with the natural world. It's insane. The way we are living is insane, selfish and unexamined, and we need to talk about it. Yeah, it's depressing. Yeah, it's difficult, but let's talk about it. Let's figure out some right ways of living going forward. I think like being a vegan is like one of the most radical things you can do, not only for your health, like it staves off cancer, but it's also like one of the most radical things you can do for helping our planet and animals. So, I don't know. People want us to be quiet, and that's stupid. I just want to talk about it, and Marvin Gaye was talking about it in 1971 so eloquently. So let's bring him back. Let's remember him. Let's remember this message.
Poison is the wind that blows from the north and south and east. Mercy, mercy me. Oh, things ain't what they used to be. No, no. Oh, I wasted on the oceans and upon our seas. Fish full of mercury.
You just answered two of my questions that are going into it. I'm like, this song is 49 years old, and while it's a part of our consciousness, and everyone basically knows the words to this song, it hasn't sunk in an emotional level where people can even relate to it. It's actually worse. Like, the ecology is worse than it was in 71, and it was bad back then.
Yeah.
Like, I had a question of, like, what would you do to heal the world, which you've actually given me some suggestions. And one thing that I don't really think that is mentioned that well is I'm a Quaker, and we're very concerned about the population of the planet. Our goal at this point is to go down to 1960s level, whatever that number was at 1960. As the world, we should be really intensely focusing on that. For that reason, we would regain some of our vegetation, or our planet will be cleaner. And because of automation and all this other stuff that's going on, people will actually have jobs and feel a little self-worth. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but it doesn't seem like anyone's talking about it.
I think you're right. I think that's absolutely right. We're overpopulated. Let's talk about it. So that there's food for everybody. I think population control would happen more naturally if women were represented equally in government, because they know that they want to have access to education and jobs. And in doing that, there usually is choice in your family planning, equal representation like there are in Scandinavian countries where they have quotas where government represents the population 50-50. So I think empowering girls in education and women to represent us equally in government, that's going to take time, but it's going to take care of a lot of issues. I think intrinsically, I think people need to leave their land alone more. There's this notion that landscaping is something to strive for, but if you read any of the reports coming from, national wildlife organizations, they say leave your land alone. Allow there to be some brush piles and some bushes. Leave your land alone. It allows these moments of migratory safe zones for species, and it creates ground cover that helps topsoil. Like, leave your land alone, explore veganism, equal representation of women in government, finding our place in the natural world. That's respecting all species, all life. These are things. Education is vital, because you can't even have this conversation if you don't have a well-educated population usually. So education's at the root of it. Caring for women and children and animals and diversity, people who don't have a voice in our society. So you're asking me big things, and I'm on a radio interview, and I usually don't talk about this in a radio interview, and I love you for asking me about it. I love you for starting the conversation about creating woke music. Like, bless you, brother. I think that's amazing, and I feel a little vulnerable talking about this, but it's probably what I'm most passionate about, is our place in the ecosystem. our sustainability for all species. What is our part in it? We must be stewards. What we're doing is our own demise, but it's so selfish that we're taking down all these innocents with us. So, honoring diversity, honoring history. I think we live in a really unfair society for people of color, for women, and I'm really tired of that. I'm just very watchful of it, and I care about it, and I'm speaking up for it.
I'd say continue. Please continue. We need voices. And during the intro, I made a comment that it's, you almost have to apologize for what you're doing. You're apologizing that you care about the earth and that you want to make it a better place. And it should not be that way. This conversation should be very commonplace. I asked the question, what would you do to change the world? And you just gave me a couple things. And I would just want to share with you, I would do the 3 W's. And you basically mentioned that. And it was water, women, and wonder. We need to protect our water sources and make sure and drill it down backwards. So that's a clean environment. So we have our water. 98% of our, 90% of our body is water. Women are need to be free from the slavery that they have in the world. They need to be equal and then some. The creativity level of our world will completely change and the population would change if there is actual freedom for women. And wonder is that we are thoughtful and we believe in science and we believe in being creative, and education is a virtue and not something that you just run through for 12 years. That's my thing to change the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and that's more positive. I've been focused on the P's, like, let's get off of plastic, right? Plastic is just smothering our planet. It's making the temperature rise. It's making species die. Plastic, let's get off of plastic. There's other options out there that could decompose. Petrol, pigs, like, we just need to stop eating animals, right? So I've been focused on the P's, but I love your W's.
You can use my W's. Okay, it's water, women, and wonder for your next record.
When Carl and his sister united me in their tribe, I felt the strength in numbers emboldening my shyness. I laughed at other people, at their bodies, at their hair. I became the vicious girl, parroting her despair. And one day, cold as calculation, Carvel went too far. Intentional in his hurting, physical in his war. To the shyest one of all of us, the tenderest lonely heart.
The song Silent to me is your centerpiece of this album, and it's very deep. And I want to know, before I even start asking questions, is this considered an autobiographical story?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm sure that people ask about this song over and over again, and I just want to let you know that when you talk about Carl in the story, I am that person. I was never really physical abusive to women or just people in general, but I was that bully. When I was younger, I definitely had would attack, I guess, the weak to make me look strong and to look and size a room up and find out who I can either make fun of or to kind of joke around to prove that I'm more superior. It's something I'm not proud of. I think when I do my flashpoints, of the highlights of my life, I hope all those are missing from my reel. But I identify with this character very strongly, and I've never heard this person before in a song. Can you talk a little about that?
I love that you're bringing out Carl from the story. And I changed the person's name for sake of the song, but it very much is something that a family I grew up with. I was friends with Carl's sister, but I would often hang out with them. And their family was going through a divorce, and Carl was the middle child and very sensitive and very smart and very upset about his life falling apart all around him. Had a feminine side, a tender, sensitive side, even though, he's masculine, and was just probably terrified to ever be selected, to be picked on, right? That's the fear. He was afraid, so he would go out and torment before someone could torment him. It was a way of staving it off, and he would look for the weak person, and that was this girl who in our neighborhood who was poor, and I don't know where the dad was, and the mom was elderly and overweight and very much always inside the house, and she was very alone and sensitive, and I would be with them, and it was just one time it went way too far. It was a terrible thing he did, and I never say what it is in the song that he did, and I don't want to say it just to protect people, but it was just happened in a flash. It was really cruel, and I didn't feel like I could stop it in time. I was voiceless. I was paralyzed by my own silence, being complicit as a bystander, and I'm ashamed of myself for that. I was complicit as a bystander. That's silence. That's silence in that verse. Of course, there are other verses in the song where I'm silent. I start with that because I'm a child, and that was one instance of silence and the dysfunction of not speaking out. And then I move to the next verse where I'm in my 20s, and I experienced sexual harassment in a very masculine atmosphere of a large tour, and I'm silent. I'm silent so I can just keep going with the tour and get back up on the horse and, not give him the dignity and keep my gig and kind of keep my mind together. Silence again, dysfunction again. Third verse, I'm now in my 40s. I'm at a party with fathers and mothers of the children that go to my daughter's school. And it's like you almost need a little velvet rope between the women and the men. The men are huddled on one side of the room and the women on the other. It's, again, very dysfunctional, and we're falling into old patriarchal roles of gender norms. And I don't fit in either place. It's like, no, I don't really want to be in the kitchen talking about recipes and microwaves. And I'm very gossipy, and I feel very other anyway in that atmosphere. And then on the other side are the men. And so I go and I try to talk to the men, and I add my 20 cents to the room. How flatly it does land. They don't really want me to be part of the conversation. It's awkward for them. There I am, my silence. I hear my great-grandmother in my head. Shh, be quiet. Like that. So I don't fit in either place. I don't know where to stand. Okay, I'm just going to roll myself up and be in my silence, because that's a safe place. But it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't change anything. And so we perpetuate this notion of silence. I learned it from my parents, who are of the silent generation. Perpetuating silence, as if that's a coping mechanism, as if that were dignity or stoicism. I'm from New England, so we pretty much think that's what it is. It's take it on the chin, be quiet, and keep going, but there's no processing, there's no learning from that. And all we're doing is creating children and culture who do the same, so they don't have the coping. And then these children look to us for healing, and then we don't have enough in our own hearts because we haven't healed it either. So I feel like I need to speak in order to stop a negative cycle.
one of the thoughts that I had about this song is that like early trauma in your life just continues to manifest over and over and over. Your situation that happened at you had multiple scenes and it just compounded, I think, without you really addressing or looking at it. What you're saying is really interesting too. As a child, I was scolded if I wasn't pleasant and quiet and in the outer world. When we got home, I got yelled at for not being an obedient son in public, and that really shapes the way you interact with people, where you just kind of put up with stuff and you be quiet because you want to look like that you're a pleasant, accepting person, and it's really doesn't help you deal with some of the crazy that's out there.
That's right. You learned to turn off that voice, even when you felt that probably you did deserve that voice. And it's interesting that you're in radio now. You are projecting your voice to many, many people. So clearly there's been some examination in your soul about that. And if we're told to be silent, we feel shamed, or maybe that we're not worthy, or that our voice doesn't matter. Even when there's moments of injustice, we're wrestling with that. So I say good for you that you've somehow made the leap to speaking and breaking silence.
Yeah, I personally couldn't be stopped. There's something bubbling, there's something bubbling inside me that I just have to let it out. And letting out and not being afraid is really what's more important to me, I guess, at this point. Okay, so let's go back to the song Silence, because I do, at the very end, you explain Carl's behavior, which I'm going through the bully is weak, afraid to be tormented, tormenting before preempting, is an amazing line, but you're explaining his behavior where I really don't think you even have to. Your journey is that you're not going to be silent anymore. That's the end of your journey, but then you kind of segue back into kind of explaining Carl. So I'm trying to figure out, you must have forgave this gentleman, or had therapy, or were able to identify exactly what was going on with him and be able to pull back a little and look at it objectively.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've seen, because I'm from a small town, I see how people have grown up, and I've seen him be addicted to alcohol and drugs and be in abusive situations and lost, and if he's tormented, but he was, all he really was weak and scared and terrified to say that. So he would preempt any abuse coming towards him by abusing. But really he was just missing his dad and wanting more love from his mom. And there's an explanation for all of our silence. And so the last verse is more universal. It's more just thinking about this silence that's mandated to us. It's by generations previous. It's mandated. And I don't accept that anymore. To the point where I think I overprocess with my daughter. And I think, like, Mom, enough. But, I just hope that, again, it can be woke. I think, therefore I exist. Right? All that we are arises with our thoughts. These great sayings that should inform a lifetime.
Yeah, just put them into action. You can say everything, but if you don't act on it accurately, it just doesn't mean anything. Okay, 7 deadly sins.
Acquire and possess more than one needs. Your wicked ways, you fall from grace.
This is an older song on the album. I recorded it. I recorded like the basic musical track when I was recording my ballads album, with ballads with a bunch of jazz covers, and I hadn't been writing a lot, but this song kind of came out of nowhere, and the verse is in 5/4 meter, which is probably why I thought maybe I'll record it with the jazz stuff, because that's just kind of odd, Bo bo da dun da dun dun da 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 dun da dun da. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's in 5, and then when it hits the chorus, it just goes to a big, big 4/4 anthemic chorus, and it didn't fit with ballads. It was standing on its own, and I thought it would be really hip to bring in another singer with me. So I love Michelle and Dick, the cello. I love her voice. I love her vision. And I love her rap. I love it when she speaks. It's so sexy. It's so authoritative and funky. Her low rapping voice is so amazing. So I just thought, it'd be so great to have her, speak the spin. So I just sent her the track, and she really did her own thing. It was so different from what I thought, and I just loved it. She made it much longer and more poetic and even thinkerly, cerebral.
Paula Cole, thank you very much for making this amazing album. It's really fun. You can obviously tell that I'm a fan of this one, and I really appreciate it.
I know, Deep Dive.
Yeah.
For you, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And
you're so lovely. All right, wishing you all good things. Take good care.
Awesome, Paula Cole. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Hi guys, listen to Something Came from Baltimore, the show, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week, we have the singer-songwriter and jazz singer, Paula Cole. That's this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Something Came from Baltimore, the show. If you're here, you're far from square.
Something came from